All right. So opposition leaders, of course, stating that injustice has been done to farmers and, of course, the government has not really paid heed to their concerns. Joining me now to discuss this further is Sanjay Jha, Indian politician and former national spokesperson of the Congress party, and, of course, Kailash Adhikari, MD Governance now, to represent and, of course, to speak about the BJP point of view. So let me come to you, Kailash, first. The point is about discussing and debating issues about the budget that the opposition may not really agree with, whether it's about MSPs or, of course, the alleged discriminatory attitude that the government has shown in the budget. But how does that really qualify for abuse? Can you please define how was anything that the opposition leaders have done, how was that abusive?
Not at all. I don't feel that anything, the budget that the government presented, the opposition has its all right to call it whatever they want. But that does not qualify for them to call the PM, the Honorable Prime Minister, or the other party in power presenting the budget as abusive. I mean, in your role as an opposition, you can be a constructive opposition, Sumita. And in being a constructive opposition, you need to give out certain points that you don't agree with. In a democracy, okay, you have the right to not agree with. But that does not mean that you disrupt the parliament session and try to abuse the party in power or the process of the house, or try to abuse the Honorable Prime Minister. That is completely unparliamentary and that won't be tolerated.
Okay, let me now take that question to Mr. Jha. Thank you very much, Mr. Jha, for joining us this evening. Please respond to the allegations that have been made. And of course, Kailash Adhikari is also saying that that was not constructive behavior. Walking out is not. And but what, in your opinion, is the government not really able to take the feedback with respect to the budget, or is the opposition needlessly politicking? Where do you stand on that?
Sumita, good evening to you and to Mr. Adhikari. I see from Mr. Adhikari, he is head of governance now, supports the BJP. I think the BJP could do with some governance, Mr. Adhikari. Maybe you should be in the cabinet. But on a more serious note, Sumita, the truth is that this government has systematically destroyed cooperative federalism. If today the trust deficit is so high, it is largely on account of the whole culture of political vendetta that we've seen over the last 10 years. And even if, since you are part of ET now, you'll be aware of the way this government has stalled distribution of aid to states. I mean, the perfect example before you is Manrega, wages or dues not being cleared for West Bengal. I mean, you're talking about people literally at the bottom of the pyramid, trying to hold on to their livelihood by working on schemes that give them bare minimum wages. And the central government defers, delays, tries to, frankly, dismantle the whole process of clearing their dues. So, there is now, in my opinion, a great degree of cynicism where nobody believes this government at all. And as the results of 2024 show, that despite it not being a level playing field, the opposition came close to forming the government and will in all probability, I hope, form the government in 6 to 9 months. So here is the truth as far as the budget is concerned. Even if you look at Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, I don't think the members of the opposition are saying that they should not be given aid. Of course, they should be given aid. They are both demanding a special category status, give them what they're asking for. Instead, this government, using what is called as the sleight of hand, gives them centrally sponsored projects which are part of the central government and is telling them that this is how I'm going to make your state look good. The truth is that special category status gives you a different kind of economic or commercial facility where you can draw on more from the central assistance pool. Even if your central assistance is not being utilized, you can carry it forward. Your contribution to the central assistance schemes is lower. And more important, there are tax breaks, etc., etc. I think this government is clearly operating on that famous word, prestidigitation, which is, fool the people. I mean, Nirmala Sitharaman is given funds. She's not given the special category status. I think the idea is to still keep the states not as independent and keep them under the control of the center.
I'll come to you, Mr. Jha, but you've raised a very valid point about the eroding trust in institutions. that you say that that has been witnessed over the past few years. Kailash, how do you respond to that? And of course, there have been allegations from the opposition side that Niti Ayog's stance is, of course, biased, and the fact that it really works for BJP-ruled states. And of course, we also heard Dimple Yadav state that Rajniti nahi hoti to Bihar or Andhra ko special package kyun milta. How do you respond to these allegations? That of course, Sanjay has also been mentioning some of them.
Firstly, I'd like to tell Mr. Jha, whom I really admire and all his points, that how can we use the word trust deficit? This is the third term of the government. And after two consecutive terms of 10 years, together put 10 years, the BJP still has 240 seats. And if it was such a big trust deficit, why has the JDU or the TDP been with the government? They could have chosen to go with the India Alliance also, And Sumita, I don't see, by calling it a trust deficit, you are actually insulting the mandate of the people. The mandate of the people is with the Honorable Prime Minister. And by talking about the fact that what kind of budget Nirmala Sitharaman ji presented, she has presented the budget for the 7th time in a row. Does that not speak about volume of the integrity of the office of the Finance Minister of India? And the fact that the way she has presented the budget? The whole point that the opposition is claiming that there is trust deficit is completely false. I don't see any trust deficit. Where is the trust deficit there in the number?
Right.
And to answer the
Let
fact,
me come to you, Mr. Jha. Now,
while
while you may have your own disagreements with the government, and of course,
Sumita,
I'll come to you, Mr. Adhikari, but let me get in a comment from Mr. Jha on the fact that Mr. Jha, while you may have your disagreements with the government and of course on several other points of views, but the fact that, several leaders of the opposition are actually planning to skip and boycott that Niti Ayog meeting as a mark of protest. There are other ways to protest as well, but how will it really help? How will skipping the meeting really help voters?
Sumita, I think Kailash has asked me as to why do I say trust deficit. Let me give him a couple of examples. Today, what you're witnessing is the death of any democratic independent institution in India. People have no faith in the CBI, ED, Income Tax, Election Commission, RBI, by the way, I'm sure you know it, Sumita, giving fat dividends to the government. Otherwise, you can't imagine how high the fiscal deficit would have been. And Kailash, let me tell you, when a political party campaigns in an election on a double engine Sarkar model, literally telling the people that if you don't vote for me in the state, don't expect any support from the center, that is literally a threat. It's almost like forcible intimidation. And
Sanjay,
that destroys the whole
Please do
spirit.
respond to the question that I asked. I'm sure you've made your point, but do also respond to the question that I asked about skipping the Niti Ayog meeting.
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Skipping the Niti Ayog meeting, and how is it going to really help the voters? I'm sure there are other ways of marking your protest, but...
Yeah, I'm coming to that, Sumita. This is the point, right? That end of day, because he asked me a question on how there is a trust deficit, there has been an attempt to, in fact, even tell the voters that you don't vote against a political party because the center may choose to treat you like a stepchild. But to answer your question very quickly, Niti Ayog is very often, and I believe legitimately seen by many people, as nothing but a handmaiden of this government, which is that you put out facts or data that the credibility of which is highly questionable. And here is the truth, right? That the Niti Ayog has become more like a saffron think tank where at the end of the day, they will do the bidding of the government, which is very different from what used to be the Planning Commission, where you may have had a couple of appointments which were made by the government, but they had experts who actually acted dispassionately on hard data and made policy prescriptions. There was greater dialogue between the states and the Planning Commission. I do hope that when this government is toppled, we will go back to actually restoring certain good, healthy constitutional protocols that have been systematically demolished by Mr. Modi's government.
You know, but Mr. Jha, this government has been given the mandate for the third time by the people of this country. And let me go to Mr. Adhikari. Mr. Adhikari, you know, there is another point about that these goings on are somewhat influenced by political compulsions, given that state elections will happen soon, and hence there is that victimhood play from both sides.
You know, Sumita, first I'd like to answer something on the Planning Commission and Niti Ayog. And why I would like to answer that, because I have worked in the Planning Commission of India at the age of 23. And
you have to make your point very quickly, since we're absolutely out of time. So Kailash, you have to make your point very quickly and then answer the question.
What Mr. Jha is talking about Niti Ayog and the way he's talking about Planning Commission, I just want to say that Niti Ayog is nothing but an extension of the Planning Commission, sir. And I worked for the Planning Commission of India during the UPA 2 tenure in 2013 to 2014. So Niti Ayog is just a rechristened avatar of the Planning Commission. The way Planning Commission used to function, Niti Ayog functions. One, that. Secondly, talking about the fact that certain states are certain that in the 10 years of UPA era, so Sumita, have not the UPA given out certain packages to the states where they were allies? I mean, it's the first time in the political discourse of this country are we seeing this? And that the opposition is raking up this point?
So are you accepting that these kind of you know, bounties that have been given to these two states is actually a result of you know, coalition politics and of course ally demands?
Why are we calling it a bounty? Why there couldn't be a genuine need for the state of Andhra Pradesh or Bihar? Just because they are the regional political parties there are allies of the central government in power, does that make that state any less?
But what about victimhood? Is there victimhood at play, considering that there is going to be, you know, state elections soon? Kailash.
I mean, if there are state elections, naturally all the political parties who have a say in that state will try to campaign. And we'll look at it at the political angle. Elections are supposed to be, elections are seen as a political angle in this country. But governance is a separate topic. Administration is a separate topic.
Right, right. Cool. We'll, of course, wrap this chat here. Thank you very much, Mr. Jha, and of course, Kailash Adhikari for joining us and sharing your thoughts. We'll see how the rest of the budget session really plays out, and of course, the kind of conversations that are going to be going on and what happens at that Niti Ayog meeting. On that note, viewers, it's time for us to wrap this edition of India Tonight, but do stay tuned to ET Now as we have lots more coming up on the other side. Thanks for staying with us.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.